All right, Liff, you were live.
Okay. So it is 5 o'clock. All 5 trustees, or 3 trustees, and soon to be 5 trustees are here. I'd like to welcome everybody. Welcome, Mark. Welcome, Michelle. So the first thing we do before we approve the agenda is do the oath of office to Mark Nelson and Michelle Wing. So I'm going to do the oath. I'll read it, and I believe you both have a copy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's unmuted. So I will read it, and if you'll just follow and read after me, and we'll do the oath, okay?
All right.
All right. So first, I state your name.
I, Michelle Wing,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome. Yay!
Okay, we love you, Crowder. Bye. Congratulations. We're going to target.
So we did that. Congratulations. Signed up for 4 years or for life, like me. Okay, so 1B is the approval of the agenda. So I need a motion. Is Joe here? Did I see Joe? Or
Yeah.
okay. All right, I didn't hear Joe. So I need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. I assume there's no changes to the agenda or modification. Okay, so roll call.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Great. So we'll go to number 2, annual organizational meeting. And so I pass the baton or the gavel to Myra for
Excuse me, President Brown, we have one public comment for 2A.
for 2A.
Yes.
Okay.
Jim G. Trustees. First, I would like to congratulate the 2 new trustees, Mark Nelson and Michelle Wing. You start with a clean slate, and the public has high hopes as we continue in these unusual times. As you consider the selection of the next board president and clerk, please keep in mind that transparency remains the most important aspect of your public service. As a teacher and a parent, there's an expectation that our students sign on every day for their distance school work. They show their face, and as a teacher, I can see who is participating and who isn't. For the past 9 months, Krista Gillies has failed to show her face during a school board meeting. As a trustee, she expects our teachers to be transparent and teach showing their faces online every day. I expect the same for her during board meetings. Why would this body consider Krista Gillies to lead them during these unprecedented times, given her lack of transparency? This board needs someone to lead by example. While I'm not aligned with Joe Camino, as I believe he often comes woefully unprepared to board meetings, at least he has level of transparency. Until the new trustees have a year under their belt and show that they are capable of doing, this board needs to skip over Gillies and give the reins to Chimino. Joe, is it this time for you to step up and show us what you've got? After all, the unions bought your win. Don't be an empty seat.
Okay, Myra.
Yes, I'd like to open the nomination for president of the Board of Trustees.
Okay. I would like to nominate Carissa Gillies.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you. And do we call for a vote? Or do we have any other nominees?
I'll nominate Joe.
Any seconds? Okay. Should we, then we should vote for, do the first candidate, or do we do a trustee for each one?
Yeah. Probably by roll call, obviously.
A roll call. So we have a first,
Trustee,
go on.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson.
This is just a roll call? Or this is my
Yes.
vote?
This is your vote, which is yes.
My vote is no.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Okay, so then we now have our new board president, which is Carissa Gillis.
Thank you.
I'd like to turn the meeting over to Carissa.
Okay, and since I've never done this, bear with me. If I make a mistake, tell me so. I believe the next order of business is to elect our clerk.
Yes.
Do we have a nomination for our clerk?
I nominate Joe Chimino.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please, Mindy.
Ask for other nominations, Mindy.
Oh,
Mindy.
sorry. Are there any other nominations? I guess that's no. Roll call vote.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson. I'm sorry, Trustee Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then congratulations, Joe. We are on to item 2B, to nominate a representative to the Sonoma County Committee on School District Organization. And are there any nominations? I would like to nominate Les Brown. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Roll call vote, please.
Carissa, before we vote on this, can I just share a little bit of what this position does? So currently the county has a reorganization committee of 11 members, 2 members from each supervisory district. So we are in Supervisory District 3, which was Shirley Zane, which will now be, the name's escaping me, but the new supervisor. So for the 5,
Chris Corsi.
yeah, Chris Corsi. So each of the 5 supervisor areas nominate 2 people to be on this committee. And it can be a school board person. It doesn't have to be a school board person. And then this committee meets as necessary to discuss reorganizations of school districts, such as we had with the sections of voting type of thing. And they met for Sonoma. And currently right now, the Annalee, if you've read the paper, the Annalee and El Molino possible school merge of the 2 high schools is a topic. Other than that, sometimes this committee doesn't meet for years. What this position does is when a new person is nominated, either by a supervisor or they're not nominated by a as board members, but as they're nominated, a ballot is sent out to a representative from each school district. So if I were selected for this, I would receive a ballot of the names suggested. And often there's only one name on that. And then each school district votes for that person on this committee. So currently Jennifer Wildermuth is on this committee, I believe in 2022 and within District 3. And then there's an individual from the Santa Rosa School District who's on this committee to 2021. So there's currently not any openings in our district type of thing. So, and we only, I believe, vote on our District 3. So just a little background on it. I just had to do a little refreshing of my knowledge because it doesn't impact us unless we're, merging or doing something like we just did with the, picking out the 5 sections for each board member's geographic voting area. So just general information for everybody. So before we go to roll call.
Thank you, Les.
Okay.
Do we have any other nominations for that representative? Hearing none, we will take a roll call vote to nominate Les Brown to that representation.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Chimino,
Yes.
trustee Gillis,
Yes.
trustee Nelson. I think you're muted, trustee Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Okay, on to item 2C, designating representatives to the district committees. We have a 2x2x2. We have the LCAP committee. We have the facilities committee. We have the budget committee, the special ed committee, the wellness committee, and the DLAC committee. I'm going to designate that Lef and I continue on the budget committee, that Joe and I continue on
wait.
facilities.
Please
Oh.
slow down. Please slow down.
Okay.
So Lef and Chris on budget. Thank you.
Chris,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've done this, but we had an alternate on these before too. So we should have an alternate. Sorry to throw this wrench in there, but we should have an
That's
alternate
okay.
in case any of the people can't attend and a backup board member can attend these for them. Right, Mindy?
Correct. Yes, the backup would attend in
Okay,
the
so
person's place. Yes.
The budget committee was the first one, correct, Mindy?
Yes, Lef and Chrissa, right?
Okay, and then we'll add Joe as the backup.
Mm-hmm.
Facilities will be Krista and Joe with Les as a backup. LCAP, Krista and Lef with Michelle as the backup. Lef, do you want to explain the 2x2 briefly?
Can we go back to the LCAP?
Yes,
Can
please.
you switch Michelle with me as the thing and make me the backup on that one, please?
Sure.
Okay. And then I'll explain the 2x2. So that's Carissa and Michelle for the LCAP and Lef as the backup.
Thank you.
Okay. The 2x2x2 is 2 representatives from the school board, 2 representatives from the city of Rohnert Park, and 2 representatives from the city of Cotati. And I don't believe we've had a meeting for lots of years. But the purpose of this committee is to get together and just to discuss common issues, whether it's parks or, that we have or our education agendas, with the cities to do that. So I'm open for suggestions from Myra as she gets here more, usually the superintendent works well with both cities, city managers, chamber of commerce, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying that this committee is obsolete. It just hasn't met or done anything for a number of years. So if there's any other input on that or questions, feel free to ask.
So I've got on the 2x2x2, Les, Joe, with me as a backup. Special ed, we've got Michelle and Mark with Joe as a backup. Wellness committee, Michelle and Mark with Joe as a backup. And then the DLAC is Michelle and Mark with Krissa as the backup. And I think that is the end of item 2C.
Thank you.
Item 2D, approval of regular board meeting minutes for January, minute meeting dates. We all got a calendar from January to December of 2021. And I just have a quick question. This looks like 5 board study sessions, Myra, is that correct?
Let me count really quick. Yes, we have 4 study sessions scheduled.
Okay, perfect. Could we make a note somewhere in your spare time that we can get together with the new board and talk about what we want those study sessions to involve?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve item 2D,
Let's
the
go.
board meeting?
Chris, a question. So
Yes.
it'd be nice to do the first study session, amongst the board, the first one, obviously, so we can kind of revisit board goals and superintendent goals, and that, we started that last year just to kind of reset that bar. And I would like to suggest the first, meeting we have, we can do that, the sooner the better.
And looking at the calendar, I see our first study session in May. Is that correct, Myra?
Yes, that is
May 4th?
correct. Yeah, yes, that is correct. I'm wondering if we might want to consider an earlier special board meeting to be able to do an orientation for the new governance team.
That'd be great.
Yeah. What would you propose? Do you want to get back to us?
We can if people want to discuss it now, we can certainly discuss that now. What I'm looking at is we have a regular board meeting on the 19th. I did try to separate the board meetings, but maybe we should consider the 26th.
I agree with that date. That works for me. I'd like to get it done sooner for Michelle and Mark both. I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Okay. So we'll look for something to be sent out to everybody on an orientation special meeting.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
And I'll be sure and ask if anyone has any questions before I move on. Okay, so any more questions regarding item 2D of our regular special apparently, and board study? Do we have any other comments? Okay, can I get a motion for two?
Hold on, I did have one comment. I believe that the meeting in July is typically, that's new to this, I guess, superintendent. So I think that if we're having a study session in January, the one in July be held as reserve. If there's nothing there, that we give everybody a break.
Well, the July 13th, it looks like it is a study session. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I personally think that we should be having a study session every month, but in light of COVID and the crazy, I understand why we're doing a little bit. We have so many things to get through that I would like to see the study group kept in July.
How do we So if we go, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt. So we have
No, go ahead.
we have a meeting on June 8th and then a meeting on June 22nd. The meeting on June 22nd, could we say, hey, we have nothing to talk about in July. It's okay to wait till August 3rd? Or once we approve these, we're having them no matter what?
May I answer?
Yeah, anyone.
There is some flexibility that we just have to make sure that we inform the public in a timely manner. The reason we have 2 meetings in June is because typically we have the LCAP approval. So, and I say typically, I'm putting that in quotes. So, we have the 8th where we have a public hearing and we present the LCAP to the public, and then we must, approve it on the 22nd. So it requires that as, 2 meetings. So that's why we have 2 meetings at this time. But we can't, we do have to go through a specific process in terms of our regular meetings. It's a little bit more complex to cancel. Special board meetings are easier to cancel. I did schedule one in July because I thought it would be a good time to do some goal setting. And also if we happen to have to hire anyone, any staff, that, if we have to replace teachers or what have you, that allows us that opportunity to do those reports at that time. So we have a little bit of flexibility.
And just to comment, the more special meetings, the more work for staff. So, there's a balance there of, board members wanting everything and, what staff is able to, what's on their plate and what they have to do. But so anyway.
If
Going
we,
along with what you said, that's what I'm referring to as staff.
Yeah.
I thought erroneously that all the staff had July off, but I think.
and then if we do cancel the July meeting now, how easy is it to put it back on the calendar if we do have new hires or something that we need to do in July?
We could do that. We just have to notify the public.
But, okay, going back to special board meetings, it has to be a scheduled meeting, correct? Like this is a scheduled meeting. If you
Right.
call it a special meeting, you can only hire people on established board meetings, correct?
True. Yeah. So it would be more of a working session for the board.
Right.
Yeah, the July 13th meeting is not a special board meeting. It's a board, sorry, I drew a total blank. It's a board study session. And the
May
board
I-
study sessions, we only have 5.
Mindy?
Yeah, may I weigh in here? It's a study session meeting, but it's still agendized as a special meeting. So we still have to
Okay.
follow that Brown Act. So even though it's not a regular meeting, at the special meeting, it will be a study session, but it's agendized as a special meeting.
Well, I'll say again, I personally think we should keep the date with, we don't know what's going to be going on with school. We might need the meeting to do some things regarding opening, regarding COVID, regarding staffing, all kinds of different things. So that's my 2 cents worth. Do we have to take a vote and to keep the calendar as is?
Sure. But just one more question. As I'm looking at the calendar, all the regular meetings are designated in the darker highlight, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So those are the meetings that we can hire and do, what we have to do. I mean, if we were to hire somebody, hire decisions, only those meetings can be used, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. Just clarification. I don't have a problem other than that with the calendar.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, item 2D, can I get a motion to approve the regular board meeting dates for January through December of 2021?
I make a motion to approve the dates, adding January 26th to the calendar. 'Cause
I'll
when we
second
add-
that.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes. Trustee Brown,
Yes,
trustee Chimino,
Yes.
trustee Gillis,
Yes.
trustee Nelson. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 3, public comment, items not on the agenda. Do we have any?
About 15 of them.
Okie dokie.
Kirby will take over.
Thanks, Mindy.
Kelly. As a parent who has had their child marked absent as cutting class because of a camera issue, it is ridiculous that when students and parents turn on to board meetings, trustees are cameraless. The leaders should set a better example and hold themselves to the same standard they hold kids to. Virtual school. While we look forward to our children being able to attend school on site again in the near future, virtual school has been moving along fairly seamlessly. Annabelle Richards. As a member of a diverse community, we have to do better. I'm going to speak specifically about Carissa Gillies and Timothy Non's bully of a watchdog, Lori Mack. She runs Katati and Roanoke Park Community Connections, however it is her connections. Her views, along with Tamara Lipori, they bully and harass anyone who does not bow down to their views of Timothy Non as a saint, and anyone running against him are, and I quote, I think they are dangerous to our democracy and safety. Michelle is nothing like Tim. Tim is caring and compassionate leader. If people that supported Tim were doing this, he would not be hiding quietly. He'd speak up, end quote. Lori also stated that she believes that there is a call for protective policing of our trustees. Yes, it is her private group, cleverly disguised as a community group. She has muted, blocked, and removed numerous members who point-blank call her censorship bullying. There are numerous people who have seen this disgusting display of obsession over Timothy Non and believe Lori Mack's actions alone may have cost him the re-election. As obsessed as Lori is, I strongly urge Timothy to be aware that obsessions has a very dark side. The majority voted and wanted change. The board should be comprised of parents with students still in our district. I do hope that some of the voices Lori silenced in her Parented to Care group do still take a local policy seriously and consider running to a chair when one is available for their area. I ask the superintendent to please denounce any affiliation or support for the online group and discourage members of the board from taking part in such a group that has successfully created a huge rift in our community. I know that trustee Carissa Gillies is an active member in it. Since Lori has been so vehemently against Tracy Farrell and Michelle Wing, it should be watched closely as her level of obsession may get nastier towards those individuals as well as opposing voices in her group. Superintendent Perez, please do not stand or tolerate trustees bullying, as it is not allowed in our schools. It is not allowed among trustees as well. This continuation of division within our community will not benefit anyone, especially our student body. Opposing voices want their right to choose for their child what is best because not every child is flourishing with distance learning. Teachers aren't seeing the struggles, the threats of grounding, taking away things that work will get done, or at the assignments that gets looked at. Honestly, if you watched unedited videos of what happens in a home, you would wonder why we are continuing with this school year. Children do not retain under stress. They retain what made them feel and the way and how parents reacted. I am waiting to pass the judgment of our new members, unlike some who have been named plenty of times. Is there a way to unseat a board member due to their affiliations to a certain hate discriminating group, as it clearly does not represent the school board and what the students need? Bill Lumberg. It's been made very obvious to me over the course of the last few months that no matter what is said during the public comments section of this meeting, that none of the board members are ever going to have a discussion about it. So instead, I write this to be read to the people listening to this meeting. I'd like to remind the members of our community, and more importantly, the teachers of this district, that the children in our schools are not yours to bargain with, and you do not have our permission as parents to use them in your contract negotiations. Your threat of a strike that was printed in the Press Democrat was received, and your message was heard loud and clear by the parents. Threats of a strike at this time, when you have asked us, as parents, to assume a majority of the responsibilities associated with educating our children, is ill-timed and tone-deaf. when so many are out of work, some of which because of the fact that schools are closed. You asking for a wage increase in this time is outrageous, when our families have been told since the beginning to make sacrifices and constantly remind that we are in this together. Today you have shown us that we aren't in this together, but instead a line has been drawn in the sand and we find ourselves on the opposite sides of it. Crystal Chang. I want to say thank you to all of our teachers. I, for one, believe they're doing an incredible job in an extremely difficult situation. I know how hard they work to support our students and keep them engaged until they can return to the kind of teaching that they have been trained for and love the best. Our teachers have tirelessly fielded many emails, text messages, phone calls, and Google Meets to answer questions and provide additional support, while also finding online tools to plan lessons and activities in an entirely new way. On top of this, they are managing to facilitate whole class meetings, small group meetings, homework help sessions, book clubs, lunch brunches, and countless other virtual activities to keep students engaged and learning. My own kids' teacher have gone above and beyond. They are spending their own money to purchase prizes and books to keep kids excited. They are driving around to students' houses to drop off materials that parents aren't able to come pick up. Star student packets, Lexia certificates, birthday crowns, and laminated miniatures of themselves. My first grader was surprised by Santa as a guest reader. My fourth grader has already had several field trips. My sixth grader has managed to make new friends while transitioning to middle school because of breakout rooms and group projects. All of my kids notice these efforts by their teachers, and it makes a difference. I see their cars at school well past school hours. I see them posting assignments and sending emails well past bedtime. Teachers, please know there are a lot of parents out there who support and appreciate you. We see your hard work, and we see how much you care about our children. We know that you hate teaching like this, but our kids don't know that. You put on a smile and make the most of it every day, pushing through the glitches and assuring your kids we've got this. You're making it work. Thank you. Danielle. The principal for TPA said they would make sure siblings were on the same rotation of classes/cohorts. Is that across the board at elementary levels? Having kids with two sets of parents, having them on the same schedule would be easier on both sets, as well as any daycare facility mom uses. I have a third and a fifth grader. Also, for fifth graders, who are moving on at the end of the year, how are they going to visit the school sites or apply for the EXL program? I know Info Night is coming in January and I have signed up for it. It's hard to get a student excited about transitioning to the next school if it's just going to look the same as this year from a computer screen. A lot of parents do not partake in the PTA meetings to have a PTA president speak for them. This limits the information as some may filter ideas/concerns over other material. Aaron Connaughton. To whom it may concern. My name is Aaron Connaughton. I grew up going to Cotati Rohnert Park schools from kindergarten until I graduated Rancho Cotati High School in June of 2000. I am one of 5 children that grew up going to school here, and my children now attend elementary school at UELF. Looking back at my childhood, which was rough to say the least, I'm reminded of those teachers that impacted my life in a positive way. The teachers that took notice that I didn't always have a snack and would give me peanut butter crackers which she'd pay for out of her own pocket. That same teacher that hugged us every morning or gave us a firm handshake, whichever we chose. There are so many teachers that if I would love to thank them for their time and dedication to shaping me into the mother I am today. I chose to have my children attend Cotati Rohnert Park School District in hopes they would get the same kind of great teachers I had. So far, we have loved every teacher. My son is in 3rd grade and has ADHD. His current teacher is the one who brought up that he was falling behind last school year. She worked with me closely to get him caught up. She checks with me weekly since distance learning has taken place to ensure he has all the help he needs to stay on track. My daughter, who is in 1st grade, has had amazing teachers as well. Last year, her teacher made sure to make learning still fun for them with weekly videos he filmed in his garage. Although my daughter misses her friends, she is still able to learn and grow with her meetings and videos the teacher is posting daily. She loves her teacher and her past ones and misses their daily face-to-face interactions. The reason why I am writing to you this letter is to tell you it saddens me to know that our teachers aren't getting the support they need. As a single mother, I must live with my parents in order to stay in this county. When I saw that I am making more monthly than most new teachers in the district, I was shocked. We live in one of the most expensive counties to live in, well before the 2017 fires. What our teachers do for our kids' future is worth more than that. I am asking you to consider that the teachers are asking for and what they do for every child that attends school. The impact they make on every child is a lifelong impact. Thank you for taking the time to read my letter in support of our teachers. Jen Bodlovich. Plan for us. Dear Board of Trustees and Superintendent Perez, good evening. My name is Jen Bodlovich. I am a teacher here at Cotati Rohnert Park, and I have been in the district for 18 years. I currently teach 5th grade at Evergreen, and I am a former president of RIPSIA. I want to welcome our new school board members, Michelle Wing and Mark Nelson. I also want to thank Jennifer Wiltermude and Tim Nahn for their years of public service for CRP-USD. I am a member of our teachers union, Rohnert Park Cotati Educators Association. I imagine that you've heard we recently conducted a vote of our membership on whether to authorize our executive board to strike, if needed, as we negotiate wages with the district. Even though our membership did not meet the 90% threshold to authorize a strike, we did get over 95% of our membership to vote, and 82% voted in support of the authorization. It's important that the board, district, and community be informed on the fact that this strike vote came at a time of the pandemic is not optimal. These negotiations started before COVID hit. The point that needs to be seen here is to plan for us. Our union is talking strike because the district has a history of constantly not planning for us. The fight for a raise each year is that, a fight. Our membership as a whole last received a pay raise of 2% in 2018, and yet the cost of living continues to rise. We desire to be in a line item on the budget for a raise each year. Therefore, the question comes to this new board and superintendent. Do you feel staff should be in line item in all proposed budgets? If so, then this will be a talking point as you move forward in the financial discussions. This is a new lens to look through as you manage the budget, especially during a pandemic, but small steps towards a goal is a start. Our health plan is significant, and we are thankful to have these benefits, yet they also don't put money in our pockets. It's a sensitive and tricky balance. Our negotiation team will soon be planning for the 2021 school year. Plan for us now and keep us as a line item for yearly raises as part of the budget plan. Thank you again for your service and attention to this matter. Katie. I am disgusted with the CRP-USD Teachers Union having the nerve to hold a strike vote. Yes, educators should be paid more, but it is clear how disconnected they are from the community they serve when parents and families are struggling financially, have been jobless, and teachers are working from home, doing less online classes, and are asking for more. They have students who won't receive anything this holiday season, and they give off the appearance that they are the only ones they care about, not the community they serve. Christy Lua. I am a lifelong resident of Rohnert Park. I am an Evergreen, Rohnert Park Junior High, and Rancho Cotati High School alumni. I grew up when our town felt like a family, where you knew families would take care of other families. I am sad to say I do not feel this way anymore. I am saddened by the statements coming in. I am a proud parent of a senior at Rancho and a 5th grader at Evergreen. I am devastated for what they are missing. I cry when I think about my son not getting his senior night at basketball or graduation. I am sad that my 5th grader isn't going to experience outdoor ed with his friends. But I am beyond proud of our district for keeping my kids safe. Myself and my seniors are asthmatic. My son has been hospitalized several times over his life due to breathing issues, and not your average ones. The ones where your kid is turning blue and being intubated. This is an image that I see in my head daily. The fear doesn't go away or lessen. I'm wondering how many of the parents pushing to open our schools have been through that. This is not something I would wish on anyone. Now to touch on a comment about Rancho Cotati's ASB and Jessica Holman. My son is in this class. If anyone knows Miss Holman, you know 2 things. 1, she would never put her students' safety at risk. 2, if she is given rules, she will go above and beyond, and I trust her with my son's life, because I know she will keep all students safe. Did they have students on campus for homecoming rally? Yes, they did. Was every kid there masked and over 6 feet away from each other? Yes, they were. I was there the entire time. Lastly, after years of staying home and taking care of my disabled son, I decided to go back to work. I was lucky enough to be hired as a paraprofessional at Evergreen Elementary. For those of you saying teachers like this way, you are wrong. I see firsthand how teachers miss their students. They are putting in more hours during distance learning than any other time. They miss all our kids. They want to be in the classroom. They just want to be sure they can be safe, not just for their family, but for ours and our kids' school family. I miss my students in my class. This is a different time. As much as I dislike this, I would hate to go back to school too fast and have a student get ill or worse. Thank you to our superintendent, board, teachers, and staff. Sincerely, a proud CRP-USD alumni, parent, and staff member, Christy Lua. Christina Juarez. Good evening. My name is Christina Juarez, and I am not only a teacher in this district, but I'm also a proud parent. I have to say that my hat goes off to all the teachers and parents out there all over our country. None of us chose this path for our children, but yet we're all embracing it. Yes, it's hard. Yes, we'd rather have our children/students in the classroom. Yes, this is one of the most difficult things we've had to endure, but we're all doing the best we can. The teachers are putting in countless hours of planning, learning, teaching, supporting, etc. for each and every student. The teachers are working very hard with their staff to make packet pickup days run smooth and make sure each family has all that they need to be successful. School, as we've known in the past, is temporarily stressful, confusing, and chaotic, but school is still in session and tools for our children to learn are still in progress. Thank you, teachers, for all you have done and continue to do. All of you, teachers, are who our children rely on each and every day consistently and for guidance. Thank you. As all the parents know, now teaching is a demanding job, and now teachers can't get the daily reward of seeing their students' faces in person each day. Thank you for your dedication and loyalty. It means the world to all of those that you serve. We got this. Linda Tillman. Good evening. I would like to say that I think we have an amazing group of teachers in our district. Anyone who has a negative comment to make about this necessary distance learning should spend a week with a child and experience it for yourself. It is very difficult for the child and the teacher alike, especially the younger they are. The teachers are having to roam the screen to be sure all are present and attentive to her. They are having to repeat themselves, they are expected to do the unexpected on a daily basis, and need our support and encouragement. In my wildest dreams, I never would have expected what I experienced. And I was with a bright child. Looking for the right page from a folder, having them sit still while a teacher is talking, trying to keep distractions down, all while trying to work as well. I think we need to give each other a break and thank our wonderful teachers for what they have accomplished so far and support them with what they need. No name. I want to extend my appreciation to all students at RCHS for adapting and growing with online learning and the new 3x3 schedule this year. There are new challenges, of course, but it should bring comfort knowing that you all have had access to a consistent, safe, and thoroughly supportive experience this year. In comparison to areas across the country that have gone back to school in person, you are leaps ahead of your peers because you have not had to miss weeks of school due to erratic school-wise quarantines. The consistency of your schooling and safety you have experienced this year is not the norm for many students. Teachers, I want to send my support for also adapting and growing with the new schedule and learning platform. Our students are lucky to have a team that generally wants to provide a rigorous and supportive experience this school year. Best wishes for the new year. You all have been doing a great job. Susie Christian. Hello, I have two boys, ages 10 and 13. My oldest attends Lawrence Jones Middle School. He has good teachers and is getting straight A's. He says school is easy, which I think is great. My youngest attends Evergreen and has Miss Juarez. She has been a true blessing. She has a firm schedule, which is easy to follow, and he attends all Google meetings. Anytime I have questions or concerns, I message her and she replies within minutes. I think all the teachers have been doing a great job during this pandemic. I want to thank them for all their hard work and dedication. Thank you for reading. Trish. I wanted to write about some good things happening in distance learning. My oldest son is in 4th grade at Evergreen Elementary, and his teacher, shout out to Miss Stainer, keeps him engaged and excited to log in every day. My middle son is struggling a bit more, but this year, more than ever before, I felt like a partner with my kids' teachers. Both of my kids' teachers are incredibly responsive to any question I ask, always replying within minutes, which is above and beyond, and eager to make this work as well as it can be expected. I am grateful for the Herculean effort being put on by teachers, and during this time, it is difficult for everyone.
And that concludes public comment.
Okay.
Sorry, President Gillies. I have one more. Kelly, from Kelly. As a parent who has had their child marked absent as cutting class between, excuse me, let me start all over again.
Excuse me, Mindy, this one was already read at the top of the comments.
That was the first one? Thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, great. I'm glad you brought it up. We don't want to miss any. Item 4A, communications, student board member reports. We will start with Addison.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new board members, Trustee Nelson and Trustee Wing. As we approach the beginning of our winter break, our student community is more active than ever, planning all sorts of activities and events for the entire student body. For our video committee, we are currently in the midst of planning and creating videos intended to inform, connect, and entertain the student body. Distribution of the videos will occur across most, if not all, THS social media platforms, including Minga. Our first video was posted this week and has gotten a great reception from the platforms we've posted it on. For our drive-in movie committee, it has a currently working plan to host the event. While the date is tentative and pending approval due to the current status of COVID in the county, it has all the proper social distancing and COVID protection methods integrated into it. For our tutoring committee, we have tutoring forms publicly released on Minga as of current to allow students to become tutors or to be tutored in all Tech High subjects. Within the coming weeks, students will be paired up with tutors to help assist their learning needs. For the virtual art gallery committee, we are currently gathering art submissions from the Tech High community for a large slideshow / presentation for the Tech High students and parents after winter break. For the student store, we are developing class t-shirts for every grade. We are developing class t-shirts for every grade level and are currently gathering submissions. For our podcast committee, we are gathering audio supplies and equipment to begin recording Tech High community podcasts. For the Spirit Committee, we have a planned holiday Spirit Week this week to celebrate the holidays. For Monday, we had a Deck the Halls background day. We had a Roasty Toasty Tuesday where we celebrated today with a nice warm mug. Tomorrow, we will have Santa's Workshop Wednesday, where we will become a member of Santa's Workshop, and Ugly Holiday Sweater Thursday. Additionally, a Spirit Week will be planned for the week following winter break, leading up to a virtual rally on January 8th. The Spirit Week is game show themed with current specifics to be released soon. Lastly, from our own Tech High Sustainability Club, we have holograms to be released in the nearby future where people can donate $3 to a sustainability organization in exchange for sending a candy cane and a message to someone they choose. All delivery will meet social distancing and COVID health guidelines. It's currently postponed due to the stay-at-home order, but we'll be back once the stay-at-home order is over. As the semester's end approaches and the winter break begins, I want to encourage everyone to spend time with their families, celebrate the holidays, and have fun.
Thank you, Addison. Reagan.
Hello, everyone. This week is finals week for Rancho students, and Thursday will be the last day of the semester. On December 4th, we had our 4th rally of the year. We were very happy with the amount of guests in attendance and participation. Sophomore Haley Rogers was awarded a $30 gift card for DoorDash for winning a game during the rally where participants had to find as much Rancho spirit as they could in a short amount of time. Our canned food drive was a huge success. Although we did not reach our annual goal of 10,000 pounds, we did get a lot of participation from our Cougar community. ASB will be having several dine and donates during the new year. And we had planned a holiday decorating fundraiser, but unfortunately, due to the stay-at-home order, we weren't able to go through with it. We've started a new way of getting news out to Rancho students. Twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays, we will make what we call a Cougar Report. These are presentations where every commission and ASB can have their own slide, and they can put down any information they may have that they wanted to get out. On my slides, I usually give a short recap of what happened during the school board meeting, or just letting people know how or when they could watch the next school board meeting. These get sent out to teachers and they share it during class, or they post it in their Google Classroom account. Through these Cougar reports, we've been able to get more people on Dominga where they can see all school events. This week's clubs consist of Peer Helping, Gender and Sexuality Alliance, Dance Club, California Scholarship Federation, EdCore, Math Club, Love Outreach Christian Club, and FCCLA. As the first semester wraps up, I can't help but to feel sad, but then I remember how lucky I am to be a part of a district that never gives up. Coronavirus isn't something that the school board alone can control, but they do everything they can to roll with the punches, and for that I am grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Reagan. 4B, Roner Park Toddy Educators Association Report, Emily King.
Hi, Krista. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, members of the school board and Superintendent Perez. First of all, RIPSIA would like to welcome our two new school board members, Trustee Michelle Wing and Trustee Mark Nelson. We look forward to working together with both of you to support our students, engage our community, and improve our district. The goal of our association is to improve wages and working conditions in order to attract and retain highly qualified educators who offer the community the very best instruction and programs possible, and also work with the district to continue to ensure equity and opportunity for all of our students. I know this is the goal of the school board as well, and I would love the chance to meet with each of you to discuss the ways that we can collaborate during your tenure. It has been a year unlike any other, and I want to recognize the ways that each and every one of us have adapted and moved forward despite the incredible challenges we've faced. Although we are currently seeing a spike in the number of COVID cases and increased measures to limit the spread of the virus, change is on the horizon as the vaccine is starting to be distributed. One of the organizing ideals of our association is the importance of the collectivist mindset and the focus on the good of the community. While the divisions in society have often been on display this year, especially as we tire of the need for measures like social distancing and distance learning, it is really our continual commitment to our collective health and keeping one another safe that has reduced the spread of this very real threat. While it is sometimes hard to see the impact of our individual choices and frustrating to alter our lives so drastically, we have undoubtedly protected more of our fellow citizens than we will ever know. I want to encourage the community to hold on, to focus on the hope and change on the horizon, and know that your efforts are making a difference. Throughout this semester, our CRP USD educators have learned new ways of teaching and adapted to connect with students and family in new and sometimes difficult, but also exciting ways. I know that I personally have learned new ways of teaching that I will continue to use even after all of this and after we return to the campus. Tonight, I want to highlight one of our educators who is making a difference every single day. Her colleague, Deb McCampbell, shared this with me. Carrie Beard is a phenomenal teacher at Monte Vista. In person, her bubbly personality, above and beyond work ethic, and personal goal to strive for excellence for her students and families can be seen each and every day in the smile she shares and positive comments she says. Going virtual this year has not slowed her down. Since we can't get together for in-person assemblies, Carrie now puts together virtual Friday assemblies that include student participation. Each week, she collects videos from students to say the pledge and sing the school song. She includes videos of teachers, makes announcements for upcoming spirit days, and includes videos from the PTA with upcoming events. She also collects videos from her principal and assistant principal with announcements. She does this effortlessly and gives of her own time for the school and the community. She is a phenomenal teacher and a crucial part of the Monte Vista staff. If you ever want to see an amazing teacher in action, go see Carrie Beard at Monte Vista. This is just one of our many educators who are going above and beyond. While the tireless work of our educators might not be visible to all, our members are spending countless hours leading class meetings, small groups, and one-on-one instruction. They are assessing the progress and well-being of all of our students, connecting with families, and finding new ways to build community. While this new frontier of remote learning has brought challenges, the hard work, dedication, and the giving of our own personal time is nothing new. The stalemate on wages in this district is also nothing new. We've continually asked the school board to make teachers a priority so our educators can stay in the district and continue to serve the students and live in the community we love. Yet year after year, there are more and more reasons why educators must wait. We've been willing to support the district and forego wage increases during some very difficult years. But the rising cost of living is making it too large of a burden to bear without the commitment and evidence that the district will prioritize a plan to bring wages up to par with the county and the state. We want to work together to determine a way to move forward and plan for the future of education that we want to see, that we all want to see. A future that invests in students by investing in teachers. The last item in my report tonight is an update on the process of negotiating the in-person Memorandum of Understanding, which paves the way for returning students and educators to campus together. In negotiating this MOU, we are assuring that there is a clear, agreed upon plan for all standards of health and safety. We absolutely want other stakeholders to be involved in this process. We are not in opposition to parents or the community, and we want to work together to ensure a smooth, safe return to in-person learning. Last Friday, December 11th, our bargaining team met with the representatives of the district. Our team presented a proposal for in-person instruction that included a tiered re-entry based on the county's COVID-19 infection rate. This proposal outlines the type of instruction that would be provided in the various tiers, as well as the standards that must be met to ensure safety. These tiers are based on a variety of factors, including data and the consultation and direction from the county health officer, the Sonoma County Office of Education, and the California Department of Education. One of the most important factors is the number of students and staff in cohorts and how many cohorts each individual can interact with. The cohorting guidance from the California Department of Education states, a cohort is a stable group of no more than 14 children or youth and no more than 2 supervising adults. In a supervised environment in which supervising adults and children stay together for all activities and avoid contact with people outside of their group in the setting. Supervising adults should be assigned to one cohort and must work solely with that cohort unless serving children 5 years of age and younger, in which case an adult may be assigned to no more than 2 cohorts. The Sonoma County Office of Education and Dr. Mays are also working to provide additional guidance on cohorts. This is such a crucial piece of the return to in-person learning, so our tiered plan lays out what we believe is a safe and recommended cohort limits for each phase of reentry. While it is important to consider possible schedules so that we can plan and prepare, these schedules will ultimately depend on the agreed upon cohort numbers. Therefore, we urge the board to place priority on the completion of the MOU so we can be ready and prepared to welcome students safely when we are given the green light. Thank you all for your commitment to our students, our schools, and our community. I wish you a happy holiday season, and I look forward to working with you in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Item 4C, receipt of official correspondence.
We do not have any official correspondence this evening.
Great, thank you. Item 5, consent agenda, items A through H. Do we have any comments? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5H?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Item 6, educational services.
Excuse me, we needed a roll call vote.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Mindy. Can we get a roll
You're
call
welcome.
vote? Sorry.
Yes, sure. Trustee Brown? Trustee Brown?
On mute,
I think
Les.
Trustee Brown, you're muted.
Wrong thing. I'm clicking it on the
Hello.
picture. Yes, sorry.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Can I go back to IT school?
No.
No.
Item 7, business and operations services. Do we have any public comments?
We do not. President Gillis, may we request that item 8A parcel tax report be moved up before item 7? We have staff member that's ready to report.
I guess we can do that, but we didn't do that in the original agenda.
My apologies.
Mindy, point of order, can we do that?
we have to vote to do that.
Okay, all right.
So
Okay, so let's have a roll call vote.
Well,
Wait,
we need a motion and a nomination or a second.
Yes.
What
Can
are
I
we
get a
moving?
motion?
Make a motion that
sorry?
we move 8A before we get to 7.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Brown,
Yes, unmuted.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing. You're muted, Trustee Wing.
We're gonna try to get through the whole meeting without doing that. Yes.
Thank you.
It's contagious.
Deal.
Okay, so we will insert item 8A, Parcel Tax Oversight Committee Annual Report 2019 to 2020.
Okay, I'll start with the introduction on this item, and we have Karen Schubert here, also one of the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee members to do the report. We do have a Parcel Tax Oversight Committee. It's part of the ballot language for our district's parcel tax. We meet twice a year to go over the financial information. The last meeting, the committee met on September 1st, 2020 to go over the 1920 fiscal year information. So Karen Schubert is here to present a little overview on the annual report to the Board of Trustees.
Good evening. I want to welcome Trustee Wing and Trustee Nelson to the board. So I'm the chair of the Parcel Tax Citizens Oversight Committee. So in keeping with the bylaws, the Parcel Tax Citizens Oversight Committee met 2 times during the calendar year 2020. At the meetings, the following items were discussed and actions were taken as needed. We did a review of the revenue projections and the receipts. We reviewed the parcel tax budget and expenditures for 2019-2020. We reviewed the parcel tax expenditure plan for 2020-21, and we approved all of our meeting minutes. And the committee can report that all parcel tax funds have been expended in accordance with the resolutions 1112-12 and 1516-1. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
I have one question. Is this for measure D and B or both of them together?
It's both. Basically, the 2 parcel taxes have been, they were combined.
Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion to approve item 8A, Parcel Tax Oversight Committee Annual Report 1920?
I move that we approve that.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Okay, on to 7A, funding of the committee investment funds from the Federated Indians of the Great Rancheria for 2021, an update from Mr. Maricao.
Thank you. So we have the agenda item here for you for discussion on the funding of the Community Investment Fund with the Federated Indians of the Great and Ranchera, excuse me. So the board is aware that we have a maintenance of understanding with the tribe. And we started to get money through the Community Investment Fund with first payments were received in June 2017. The initial amount was for over $1 million, and it is increased annually through an adjustment that they figure into that. So starting after COVID hit and the pandemic and results of the casino being shut down, we did receive notification in April 2020 that we would not be receiving funding as per the agreement on that. The money is not guaranteed. There would not be sufficient revenues due to the closure. It caught us by surprise because we were already into the fiscal year and we were told we would not be receiving the last quarter payment on that, which we've already had funds committed to. That was $301,000. So and also as a result of that, as we started to look in the future, there was no certainty that we would start receiving those funds again. So we pulled them out of our planning. We had ongoing commitments for staffing that we had to shift over and start paying for out of the general fund that increased our level of deficit spending. So recently we received notification starting in October that we might be receiving those funds again. So and we were asked to submit a spending plan to the tribe. And that in late November, we were told, we received notification that the plan was approved. And basically, we're looking at a half year of funding at $630,000. And so we have now put that in our budget for current year to be part of first interim report that the board will see a little bit later tonight. But we do need to make note that these funds are still a little uncertain. It's really going to depend on the level of the funding that the casino gets, the revenues, and their ability to stay open. But we also felt that the farther we move away from the pandemic, the more likely it was that those funds would become more regular again. So we've included those in our multi-year projections all 3 years. We recognize half of the revenues this year. And in the second year, we also included half due to the uncertainty. In the third year of our projections, we went back to the full $1.2 million on that. So we'd also officially like to recognize and thank the Federated Indians of Great and Ranchera for their support over the years, for the programs that they help fund, and what an important part of that funding does for our school district. Are there any questions?
Robert, I have a question. So does this help towards the $800,000 that we've been talking about?
Yes, it does. And so that would help us as we move forward and recognizing those revenues in the outward years. But we will talk a little bit more about where we're at with that deficit as we discussed in the budget committee meetings and talking about the level of deficit that we are. There's a lot of moving pieces to that. So when we get to first interim, we'll talk a little bit more about the level of deficit that we're looking at.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. We will move on to, yes, thank you. Move on to 7B, authorization to purchase ionization air purifiers for remaining HVAC units. Robert.
Thank you. The next 4 items are all going to be part of the district's reopening back to in-person learning, or hybrid learning first, excuse me, and then in-person learning. As you know, we've been doing a lot, particularly with the CARES funds, in order to get the things in place that we need to safely reopen. The first item we have here is the purchase of the ionization air purifiers for the remaining HVAC system. So if you recall that in November, we brought an item to you, and in order to make a purchase for 119 units, we were fortunate that the Grayton Ranchera also at that time was providing a grant not only to Sonoma County but Marin County school districts in order to help them with their air filtration systems. So they were able to we were able to purchase 119 units with that. Now we're looking to get the remaining units for the rest of the classrooms in our school district. And so the item before you is for the remaining 458 units. We will be using federal care dollars for this purchase, and so we're presenting it to the board for approval.
So I believe that it said in here that this money came from CARES. Is that correct? That's
correct. So we had received as part of the federal government's relief package, school districts, a lot of entities, including school districts, received money from the CARES fund. And for us, that money could only be used for distance learning, learning mitigation loss, and activities and costs related to COVID. So this is a good use of those funds.
So I had a question on this, and I didn't see exactly, and I think I partially asked this of Myra yesterday. Why does John Reed only have 3 BPI devices compared to the other schools?
Well, I think part of it had to do with as we previously mentioned, we were able to purchase some units previously. So we have units already installed from the other funding that we had received. So this is coming in and filling in the blanks.
Okay, so these are only, all of these numbers, the 60, 45, etc. These are only new units.
Correct.
Okay.
So we purchased 119 of the units with Grayton Rancheria, basically a donation that they gave to all the school districts in Marin and Sonoma. We were able to purchase 119 of those. And then we have additional federal CARES money that's going to purchase the balance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And hi, Josh, I see you there. Are you and your guys going to be doing all the installation then?
Yeah, we already installed the 119 units. So our staff's been trained already, and we're going to complete the installation of the rest of them.
Okay, great. That'll save us some money.
We'll save a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Josh or Robert. What's the life of these units?
They're maintenance free. They have a 5-year warranty.
Okay.
This is new, so we're learning as we go. But
okay, so we're not looking at, so 5-year warranty. Hopefully, we won't have to be replacing them, during that time. And then, optimistically, obviously, hopefully this is going to help with the virus. And then going forward, we always see ADA lost during the winter months when the regular flu and colds are going through. It'll be interesting to see if these units will help with just the general health in general going forward after the virus. Hopefully so.
Yeah, this is supposed to improve indoor air quality a lot, including when we have the fires as well with the smoke. So these are going to be great.
Thank you.
Josh, I recall the first filters, are these inline or non-inline?
These are inline.
So the inline filters are more expensive? I mean, we had that brief discussion a couple months ago.
So these aren't filters. This is something that ionizes, that sends ions into the air. Positively.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about the $83,000 a year in filter costs, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. Do Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve 7B, authorization to purchase ionization air purifiers for the remaining HVAC units?
I'll make a motion that we approve 7B.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call vote?
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Item 7C, approval to purchase desks for in-person hybrid instruction.
Okay, again, this is related to the hybrid instruction, and as Ms. King had pointed out, reminded us about the pods being 14 students. And so in order to make the most optimal space, still keep just the distance that we need between the desks, we're having to order additional desks. We have a lot of larger desks, tables, that type of thing in our classroom. Josh and his staff have done a great job of going through and basically auditing the needs of every classroom, looking to see the configurations, what works best, and how many we can get in there safely. Dr. Perez and I actually went out and visited a couple sites and saw firsthand some of that. And so basically right now, after this audit, we're looking to make a purchase of 1,710 desks. And that will allow us to get the 14 students in each classroom capacity.
So Josh, where are we going to store all these multiple tables that are in? How's that going to play?
Yeah, so we're going to try to use any unused portables or unused classrooms to store the majority of it, but the overflow, we're going to have to get storage containers, bring them onto each site.
I had a feeling because we just don't have the space.
Yeah, unfortunately, our warehouse is full of supplies, so we
Yeah.
don't have enough room over here for the rest of it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. So I understand that these desks are to achieve what we need for the cohort size of 14 students. And these seem like they're pretty high-tech desks to enable that. Are we going to get rid of these desks and swap back to the old desks and tables when this is over?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think right now the plan is to make sure that we're able to accommodate. And I think when we do actually get back, I think we're going to have to figure out what works best for configurations, whether or not we're going to have different number of students allowed. I mean, there's going to be a lot as we get down the road to figure out. And then basically we'll have to make the determination what's going to work best for our classroom configurations.
And one of the things to note is that, we have a certain way of teaching. And one of the things that we want to do for students is allow collaboration. Well, for the time being, and we don't know for how long, collaboration just cannot happen. So we have to store, I suspect that we have to safely store our tables, and we will probably return to tables when it is safe to do so. So, it's just currently we have these strict guidelines we must follow, where children must face the front of the room and they must be 6 feet apart, which is not typically how we do business, but it's how we're going to have to do business for now. Just like we've adapted for distance learning, we'll have to adapt for a while longer till we can go back to our normal collaborative spaces and a lot of small groups working together.
And I'm sure that this has to be done because of the long lead times of everything because of COVID and probably other schools purchasing the same desks. So I think Josh is or Robert, everyone's being proactive on getting these desks because say we go back, there probably won't be any desks and Josh will be out there with a saw cutting desks in half and putting on legs to make small desks.
Yeah, they're only $102, and that's pretty reasonable for a desk. I had to buy my 2 grandchildren desks, and that's about what they cost. Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay, can I get a motion to approve item 7C, approval to purchase desks for in-person hybrid instruction?
I'll make a motion that we approve 7C.
Can I get a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second that.
Thank you. 7D, authorization to purchase crisis.
Roll call, Carissa.
Roll call vote. I have this big note that says roll call vote. Go ahead.
Trustee Brown,
Unmuted, yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, 7D, authorization to purchase crisis Go Safely iPads.
Okay, another one under the heading of hybrid and coming back safely. So this one is for a management platform system. This is a comprehensive district-wide platform. It will be focusing on, give us the ability to focus on contact tracing. It'll help us with the daily health assessments, verification, room access tracking, unified dashboards for data analytics. So we did a lot of research, talked with neighboring school districts to try to come up with the best platform that's going to work for us. And this is the one that met our needs. So this is the one that we're bringing forward to the board for approval.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
So I have one question. So if I read this correctly, when we're able to go back into school in the morning, I log onto my iPhone, I fill this out. And then when it's my son's turn to go to school, they say, okay, your mom already filled this out. You're good to go. And then if I didn't fill this out, there will be spots at school that I could fill it out and then he can go in. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then will we have, because there are quite a few families that, you know, do the dropping line, you know, drive up and drop off. So will there be people there that can help those students, or are we not going to allow that to occur once school goes back into session?
I think a lot of it will depend on the age of the child, right? There will be people available because probably through elementary school, the students will have a barcode on their student ID, so they'll be able to swipe that to see if they've done the questionnaire or not. If they haven't, then they would need to go to another line, and there will be someone there to help those who can't or who didn't do it to help them out.
I have a question about this. It says that the body temperature scanners can read 30 people's temperature simultaneously.
That's actually the next item, though.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So I have a question. If, say, a student goes into that second line, then, you know, especially if they're younger, are they going to contact the parents to see, you know, I mean, if you ask my 6-year-old if we've traveled out of the state, she thinks Santa Rosa's out of the state, you know, like, I mean, or how do we do that?
I think we're gonna have to monitor, adjust, and really have the support of the parents, you know, and possibly have parents help with younger students. So, you know, we still have a lot of details to work out, but we definitely, if you know, my understanding, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, is you will get an alert on your phone. So if you have a phone and you get an alert, one parent can get an alert, fill it out, taken care of. So it's easier for the child when they arrive at school. And then we'll talk about the temperatures in a minute. Anyway, so that's something that we can simplify, and we know that it's working, and I probably need to make another couple calls because I know it's working in other districts, and that's what they've been doing. Also, I want to remind the board that we're talking about staggered start times we'll be bringing in, when we're able to return safely, we want to bring groups of students. So we might bring, TK and 1 first, the first week, that's what other districts are doing. And it makes sense so that we can work out these details, because that's going to be the challenge, is working out the details, making sure the kids are okay, making sure the parents check in. But we also wanted to offer the opportunity with the iPads, so that if a parent doesn't happen to have a phone or forgets, you have the opportunity to have a check-in station at the school. And we'll have staff, and each site's going to have to develop what makes sense for the size of the school. A bigger school, for example, our larger elementary schools may need 3 check-in stations. That's what I've heard them discuss. Whereas a smaller school, one of our smaller schools may need 1 or 2. So those are just kind of the details we're working out, but we will be all hands on deck to support kids, and parents through this process. I hope that helps.
Well, and at one of our elementary schools, for example, we're not going to have 600 kids at school at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
There's no way you could do that, or 1,500 at the high school. So it would have to be a staggered situation. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve 7D, authorization to purchase crisis ghost safety iPass?
All motion to approve 7D.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
All second.
Thank you, Joe. Item 7E, authorization to purchase the necessary
Roll
equipment for health.
call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mindy, you're just going to have to keep poking me. Sorry. Roll call.
No problem. Not a problem.
A fine process. Every time you miss that, they're going to be a fine.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
All right. Item 7E, authorization to purchase the necessary equipment for health screenings.
Okay, this particular item actually has 3 different purchases on it, for a temperature scanner, for iPads to help us operate those scanners, and then stands for those units. So we've combined it all into one particular unit. Again, still under the same heading of getting campuses back open safely and having the right protocols in place. Any questions?
Do we know what the ETA, how backlogged these items are?
We're fairly confident. I've been talking with the manufacturer. We should, if this is approved tonight, they issue the purchase order tomorrow. We should have this before the end of the year.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry I brought this up earlier, but this is apparently step 2 in catching any possible health issues after the survey. So it says that it's going to read up to 30 people's temperature simultaneously. Are those the people standing in line?
So it'll be people walking under the camera.
So will that include parents who are standing in line to fill it out for their children?
Yes, it'll take anyone who walks underneath the camera. It'll take their temperature.
Okay, so if the parent shows up with the child doesn't have a temperature, but the parent does, is that going to raise any red flags?
It would raise a red flag, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll have people monitoring those cameras, and they would pull that person aside and speak to them.
Okay, so a staff member that's out there that's temperature rises with frustration might also trigger it?
Possibly.
Okay.
It's like TSA for schools. Who's going to want that job? That's going to be one of the hardest jobs.
Well, at least they get to keep their shoes on, I guess. So.
I ain't telling a kindergartner they can't go to school.
Oof.
Yeah, never mind. Go back home.
Yeah, no, I ain't doing that.
Mm-mm. All right. Any more questions, comments? Okay, can I get a motion to approve 7E, authorization to purchase the necessary equipment for health screenings?
I'll make a motion that we approve 7E.
Can
I'll
I get a second?
Whoops, sorry.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michelle. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino. Trustee Chimino?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Gillis?
Yes.
Trustee Nelson?
Yes.
Trustee Wing?
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for approval of all those items.
Okay, 8B, approval of first interim report as of October 31st, 2020.
Okay, I do have a PowerPoint presentation. Mr. Kirby, if you can bring that up for us. And we will start walking through. Next slide, please. So first interim state report, this is required by Ed Code. It does require the superintendent to prepare and submit 2 interim financial reports to the board each fiscal year. Those are called the first interim and second interim. This is the second interim that we're looking at, or excuse me, first interim that we're looking at tonight. Second interim is presented to the board in March. And then what the board basically does is they do a self-certification, basically certifying the district's ability to meet its financial obligations. And when you look at the fiscal solvency piece and our ability, we not only look at the current year, but we also look at the 2 subsequent years. So it's always a 3-year projection. And with that, we need to keep a minimum reserve level of 3% in all 3 years of the projections. So as part of the process for first interim, the district, we go through and we basically go through the entire budget. We're looking and making changes in there for anything related to our revenues, expenditures that have happened since budget adoption. We're also looking at this process throughout the year, and you'll see the budget transfers. The board approved those earlier tonight. That's an ongoing item, but there's really a deeper focus at the interims, and we really get in and look a lot deeper at these particular items on that. After the board does the self-certification, we do send it to Sonoma County Office of Education for review. And then we do get a letter back from them, from SCO, noting our approval, always our approval, or they could actually have the power to disapprove it. Next slide, please. So in here is our combined general fund revenues. And when we talk about a combined general fund, we're talking about unrestricted resources and restricted resources. And when we generally present the information to the board, it's a bigger picture. So we're looking at it from a combined source. So when you're looking at our revenues here, you can see the bulk of that is our LCFF sources. That is basically what we're getting of our state funding that we get. And that's why it's such important what the state's doing, how is the state funding you, those types of things, because you can see that's by far the biggest bulk of our revenues that we get. We do get some federal revenues. These numbers are quite a bit higher than usual because of the CARES funds that we booked in there. We get state revenues also that would include like lottery that we get and a few other areas on that. Local revenues would include our parcel tax. And not only that, but it includes a lot of activity that you will see, kind of what we call pass-through dollars from the site. Example of that might be yearbook. So the money's collected, we book the revenues, and we have an equal amount of expenditures in there, but it runs through us. We also have a transfer that's coming in from another fund. That's our transfers in here for $700,000. That comes in from Fund 40. You'll see. Next slide, please. Now we're looking at the opposite side. So where are we spending our dollars? And by far, the bulk of our dollars, it goes out in salaries. We're really in the people business, you might say. And so the bulk of our expenditures are related to salary. Certificated salaries are our teachers, but also including any certificated administrators that would be included in that category. Non-teaching staff or non-credentialed staff are classified staff. And you can see the salaries that go there. And these are strictly the salaries. And for every dollar that we generate or we pay out in salaries, there are employee benefit costs. These are labor-driven costs, STRS, the teacher's retirement, PERS costs, workers' comp, SUI. Those are all in health and welfare. It gets in there too. So for every dollar that we spend in certificated, it increases those employee benefits portion of that. Those three categories there come up to about 80%. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that average, that's an average that's going to run anywhere from 75 till the high 80s, depending on the makeup of your school district. For us, our number is 80, and it could be a little bit higher. But one of the big things that you look at is what is the makeup of our school district. So, for instance, some school districts, if you have your own transportation department, those are classified staff. And those salaries would appear in your classified salaries, and it would increase your percentage. For us, we don't have our own transportation. We actually are part of the JPA, West County Transportation Authority. And so those costs actually end up in our services and operating category. So that number makes that number look higher, but then it also makes our combined salaries and benefits category a little bit lower. So it's important to understand the makeup of your school district when you're looking at these comparisons there. Next slide, please. So a different way to look at the same expenditure information is by function code. So we have a very elaborate accounting system called SACS, Standardized Account Code Structure. And with that, we're able to look at things, really slice and dice and pull data that we need to. So when you look at it by function code, it's taking that same information and now it's saying how much is directly related to instruction, or, so you can see the large blue portion there for instruction, but we also have the red there that's instruction related. So that's about 70% are going directly to instruction. Pupil services is also related. That's a lot of the support. And then you can see the other categories, including general administration and plant services that make up the rest of the chart. Next slide, please. So another way to slice the data, if you're looking at a particular dollar here, how much of that dollar is going to those major categories there? And so again, it's just another way to look at it. But when you look at the red bars on the side, it really emphasizes, again, we're in the people business, how much of our expenditures are directly related to salaries and benefits. Next slide.
Robert, you're disappearing a little bit.
All right. Okay, so this is an important slide, and it's something we really need to remind the board on as we're going forward, and kind of why we're in the situation that we're in right now. If you look at the top graphs up there, the bar graphs, that's a 3-year chart. And this is looking at our current budget year, and it's going out the next 2 years. Remember I said we have to do projections for 3 years. And so again, the LCFF sources you saw were our largest source of revenues, but you can see how flat that is. There's very little growth there. So our biggest source of revenues are flat over the next 3 years. But when you look at the bottom, you look now at the salary categories, you can see those are steadily going up in all of those categories there. If you're looking over at books and supplies and services and operating, you can see a big bump there. Well, that's part of the CARES funds. That's what's going to cause that big jump in there. But again, the emphasis is our revenues are flat, projected to be flat, but our expenditures are projected to increase. Next slide. So one of the things I wanted to point out with the CARES funds, so we had a little accounting part that we had to do and the timing of how we received the CARES funds. It was very unusual when we received these funds, and we actually told how much we were going to be getting last year, and we were also told that we can start spending it even though we didn't have it yet. And what that ended up doing is it was kind of an unusual thing where we were spending dollars that we didn't quite have. So what that ended up happening in this year's budget is it created us having to book those revenues this year and only part of the expenses for this year, because part of it was last year. And why is this important? Because without this, the current year budget would have had a deficit on that. So we're going to go over that and we're going to see current year budget looks like we have a surplus in there. But because of this, this accounting entry here, we basically would still have a deficit budget without this accounting entry. Next slide. So here is another one. This is a different way of looking at that same bar graphs that we looked at in the 3 years. So this is the last 2 years of that multi-year projection. And remember, our biggest increase, our biggest portion of funding is through the LCFF formula. And you can see right now with the funding flattening out, and we're not anticipating any enrollment growth, we have very minimal amount of new funds coming in. For next year, current numbers are projecting, we got a little under $202,000. That's not a lot of new money, considering that's our biggest bulk. So when we go in and we actually do our multi-year projections, we're looking out in the future and saying, what are our costs that we're assuming we're going to have? There's some big ones here in this. So step-in column, what is step-in column? Well, step-in column is on the teacher's salary schedule. They're able to move from column to column based on their units earned. And then based on their years of service, they're able to move down in that schedule. So basically every year the teacher's moving a step down, and most of the time that's actually incurring a cost increase, an increase to the salary. We call it step and column on that, and there's a cost associated with that. And that happens also with classified staff, even though their salary schedule is not as large. It usually goes 6 steps and that's it. But those are costs that we have to assume that we're going to have next year. STRS and PERS, so state teachers retirement, and PERS, public employees retirement systems. The district has to pay into that, and over the past few years, these two have really increased quite a bit. Governor Brown, a few years back, he was looking at and basically saying that these plans are running. We don't have enough money to fund them over years. So the employers, like us, we're going to have to put more money into that. And so every year, those plans were going up pretty substantially on the rate increases on that. This year, we had a little bit of reprieve as part of the governor's budget on that. So the cost increase is very minimal. But if you look at 22-23, that's a huge increase. Down at the bottom, if you look at the STRS, our current rate is 16%. So for every dollar of teacher salary or certificated salary, we have to contribute 16% of that towards our STRS costs. The employee also has a smaller portion that they have to pay to that. But you can see the jump from going from 21-22 to 23 is very huge. And so with those increases in STRS and PERS, you can really see any of that new money we're getting is gone. For both 21-22 and 22-23 in our projections, we don't have enough money to fund those cost increases right off the bat. And so it's not a good situation. I'm saying we don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem, and that's basically the money coming in from the state. It makes it hard to do things because we don't have those sources. We're basically deficit spending because we're not getting enough funding in on that. And so you can see the level of funding shortage on both of those fiscal years. It doubles in 22-23 on that. We also have health and welfare. So we're projecting a 3% cost increase. This year, we had a 0% through our providers through CBT. The year before that was for almost 5%. So, you know, those are numbers that we use. We will know our actual rates probably in May or June for next year. So this is a slide we want to keep in mind. Again, it's really pointing to the fact that we have a revenue problem. Next slide.
Let's ask a question about this slide,
Sure.
please. So in 2022 to 2023, the increase in the CalSTRS and CalPERS isn't. It's more than 10 times is what it looks like there. Going from 13,000 to 213, and going from 42 to 596.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's basically the state saying you're on your own for this.
Right. So what ended up happening was these were rate increases were in statute. There was a timeline for them to go up every year. And what ended up happening is this year, the governor gave us a little reprieve. They used some state money to pay down some of that on their own. But for next year, that rate increase is still there. So it's a huge jump.
Okay.
Any other questions on this slide? Next slide, please. So this is our multi-year projections. This is a form that I use. I think it's a little bit more simplified. You would have received the full packet for the first interim. The couple things that documents that you really want to look at when you get that packet is you really want to look at our narrative on that. You want to look at our assumptions on that. And then probably the most important document in there is the multi-year projections. It's called the MYP form. This is a down and dirty version of that. One thing, I apologize for the SACS form that we have to do. It is not a user-friendly form, but that is how we need to present the information for board approval. You can see the level now. When you're looking at a multi-year projection, there's two areas you really want to focus on. And I put a little boxes around those. You want to look and say, are we deficit spending, or do we have a surplus? That's the first thing. And then farther down on the form, you want to look at that AB 1200 reserve percentage. And that's the second most important thing, because that's what the board will be certifying as it needs to be 3% in all 3 years of the projection. So let's go back up to the surplus and deficit. I pointed out earlier with the CARES fund and the accounting of that, and the fact that we are showing a surplus, $123,000. So without that, we would have had a deficit. And part of the reason this is even looking this good is we made some early adjustments in our first revision, the 45-day revision earlier in this year. And we did a hiring freeze we know we were under distance learning. We looked at positions that were open and we put a hiring freeze on those, and we captured the savings for those. We also have the monies coming in now from Grayton, which is included in there. And then we've also, I think, done a really good job this year of just really being tightening things down and capturing any savings that we can in our budget. We've worked really hard to get to this point. However, you can't look at first year only, okay? And that's the thing, you know, people will say, you look at your budget and you say, oh, well, you got a 7.46% reserve. That's true if we're only looking at this year. However, we have to look 2 years out. And we showed you earlier how our revenues are flat and our costs are going up, those two slides that I showed you. And the result of that is these huge deficits that we're seeing. And while we're able to maintain that 3% reserve in 22-23, this is not a sustainable budget. If we have to go another year out, we're in trouble. And so right now, there's a couple things. We have our budget committee. Part of that task is to look at this deficit and see how much do we need to address it. You know, how much do we need to cut or raise revenues on, and what are some of the areas? And the committee's actively working on that. In fact, we have another meeting this Thursday. And and how are we going to be able to address these deficits without any other action from the state over the next couple years. Are there any questions on this slide?
So these numbers in the out years are just, this is just a snapshot in time, as you like to say, of where we currently are in the moment. This doesn't include a potential COLA next year if the feds kick down more money to the states, which I think everybody's hoping is going to happen, especially more dollars for education. So this is just right now what we know, correct?
This is what we know, and with really strong assumptions that these numbers are accurate as of now. But there are some things that can happen, and another slide will touch on that a little bit. Can we?
Hey,
if there's another,
can I ask another question about AB 1200? Is that
Sure.
the one where the state steps in if we drop below 3% in year 3?
That's correct. So there's different things. The board certification, you have a positive certification, meaning you're able to meet your financial obligations in the current year and the 2 subsequent years. That's what we're presenting to the board tonight. But if you fall below that in any of those years, you have a qualified budget, which means you may not be able to. And that's not the doom and gloom one yet. That you basically, the county works with you. You have to come up with a fiscal recovery plan and actively start working to address those issues. This district, we had 2 years ago, we had a qualified budget, and that kind of set us in this little downturn where we were really trying to right the ship. We had our budget committee, which was pretty active. Over the last 2 years, we cut $3 million out of the budget as a result of that. And in March, it looked like we were going to have a balanced budget and looking to be in pretty good shape. And then COVID hit, and as a result, the economy went topsy-turvy. The state budget and their projections were doom and gloom and huge cuts. So this is where we're at right now. Okay. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so as we talked about, we are projected to meet that required 3% reserve for economic uncertainties, remainder of the current and 2 subsequent years. That's good news. If we would have looked at this a month ago, we were not there yet. And the 2 things that happened was, one was the money that we knew now we were going to get from Grayton, which allowed us to move some cost of things that we were funding in there and free up some dollars. And the other thing that I didn't point out earlier was the fact that our enrollment right now is up. And we have been projecting declining enrollment. We've been declining the last 4 years. And we were projecting that in the future. However, our enrollment's up at this point. So that gave us a little bit of bump in revenues in the out years. And so based on that, we're recommending that the board certify a positive certification for the 2021 first interim report. Next slide. Okay, so as Trustee Gillis, President Gillis, excuse me, pointed out that this is the snapshot in time, and what we do know is things will change. So the next time when we present second interim, the numbers will be different, but we're going to continue to work on that. We know there's the governor's January budget proposal coming out. That is our next look at the 21-22 budget. And there could be some changes there coming down the pike, hopefully some positive things. Will there be flexibility options coming down from the state? We mentioned this year that they gave us a little reprieve on the STRS and PERS rates. Well, maybe they can do that again, and that would help us and free up some things. Where is our enrollment actually going to be? Is this a one-year blip, or are we going to continue to increase? And as we're working through, the budget is kind of a living document, if you want to use that terminology. It's always changing. We're always making adjustments to it throughout the year. And sometimes we get hit with some big expenditures coming in, something we weren't anticipating, or something we weren't anticipating on the revenue side. And so those could be substantial changes that are coming in. CARES funds. Will we get some more? We know now with the different administration at the federal level, there's talk that we can be getting some more money. Hopefully that happens. The part with this though is the flexibility piece. So where we really needed the money coming in March and April from the federal government was to offset the cuts that we were getting on this federal level. But we got it in with strings, meaning we needed to spend it on COVID related, we needed to spend it on distance learning and learning mitigation loss. Those are all important, and we definitely use those monies for that, but a little more flexibility to help us where we needed it at that time would have been helpful. We also need to keep an eye on the casino funding, and will there be further impact from COVID on that? And then I put a question mark there because, you know, we truly don't know what's coming down the pike here. So we'll be prepared. Next slide. So challenges, we continue to be under the pandemic. We know it's having different effects on the state budget and state economy. We know the biggest part of revenues coming in are from the 1% earners. That's continuing to happen, but it is affecting a lot of other parts of the economy. So how is that going to play out with the state and our future funding? We talked a little bit about enrollment already. Was it going to continue to increase, decline? We'll have to wait and see. LCFF revenues. So we will talk a little bit more. And I'd also like to offer for Trustee Nelson and Trustee Wing to, if you have questions on the budget, that be willing to sit down and work with you on a little bit more of the details and help you get a little bit more familiar with a school district budget. It's not like any other public entity, definitely not like anything in the private sector. But I'd be willing to help sit down with you and help things. But the local control funding formula is just that. It's a formula. And it's basically has our average daily attendance, how often are students showing up. But that number is going to increase annually by the cost of living adjustment. And right now, the funded COLA in all 3 years is 0. So that's causing our flat revenues that we're having. And will there be an increase in the future? We hope so. That will help us. But right now we're dealing with a COLA only environment, or the 0 COLA environment. STIRS and PERS costs. We talked about the huge rate increase coming up. Special education is always a challenge as far as cost. It's a high cost placement sometimes. And so our director, Rachel Allen's doing a good job on helping control those. But obviously, we need to meet the needs of the students. And sometimes we get a new placement and it's at a high price. Collective bargaining, this is no surprise to you. There's articles in the paper. Ms. King presented a little more information tonight. It's a big concern for us too. But obviously when you're looking at our budget and our ongoing revenues, they're not there to sustain anything at this point, and that's a problem. So that's a challenge and a big thing, a big issue for us that we need to work on and address. Next slide. So next steps, we talked about the budget committee. You saw those huge deficits that we need to work on. It is unsustainable, those levels. January budget proposal, we're hoping for good news on that. The things that we are hearing from the state level right now is there is quite a bit more money for this year than what was projected. However, the state continues to project a deficit in the future. So we'll have to wait till January to see if any of that money is going to trickle down to us. And if so, is it going to be something ongoing or is it one time? We welcome any dollars, believe me, coming in, but one-time dollars creates its own challenges because you can only spend $1 once, so one-time dollar once. We need ongoing revenues to sustain us and to help us work out of the deficit. We talked about enrollment, we talked about casino, And then March 2nd interim, that'll be the next official report that the board will get for approval. And we do know much will be changing over the next few months. Next slide.
Robert, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
The state mentioned that they had, all this extra money, for lack of a better phrase, because that's a terrible phrase. And I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, and your thought was that they were possibly going to use it to pay down their deficit in regards to all the deferrals. Is that still your understanding?
Yeah, I think if I had a crystal ball, I would say that a lot of it will go towards deferrals, but I think they're going to try to work out some one-time things, one-time solutions to get some dollars to us, which is welcome again, but we're really looking at that ongoing sources to really help us. But, this is unprecedented times, and I know from the state level, we'll just have to wait and see what they're going to do. And remember, this will be January, and this is our first information for the budget in 21-22, which is not till July. So even though we're going to get information in January, a lot can and a lot will change till we get to May and our next look from the state.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for bearing with me on that, on the presentation. I thought definitely some key parts that I wanted to bring to light and make sure everybody was aware of.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve 8B, approval of first interim report as of October 31st, 2020?
I'll move to approve it.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sure. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Chimino?
Yes.
Trustee Gillis?
Yes.
Trustee Nelson?
Yes.
Trustee Wing?
Yes.
Okay, item 8C, local control funding formula, LCFF budget overview for parents.
Okay. So this was normally an item that we would be presenting in June as part of the LCAP that Dr. Perez had mentioned earlier. The LCAP and the budget are kind of married together and presented at those two meetings in June, information on those. With this, there was also the requirement to add this local control funding formula budget overview for parents. And so they, under the Senate bill for the final state budget, they went ahead and they postponed that or moved it out till now to December 15th. The difference being is the information that you have is going to be in line with first interim, where obviously the one done in June would have been with the adopted budget. So we're here for board approval.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, can I get a motion to approve 8C, local control funding formula budget overview for parents?
Move that we approve 8C.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Chimino?
Yes.
Trustee Gillis?
Yes.
Trustee Nelson?
Yes.
Trustee Wing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 8D, fiscal update and planning.
Okay. So for our new board members, this is a standing item that we have, and it's kind of an opportunity. We have some broad categories, and we will present updates and information to the board of informational purpose or for discussion. And we don't generally cover each of these bullets. This particular one, we have information on the budget summary report, and hopefully you received the updated file on that. There was only, should have been 3 pages on the budget, and only 1 was included in the original packet. With this, we look at our combined general fund, and the purpose of this document is to really let you see what has changed in the budget from one month to the next. And so this is the change from the end of October 31st, the last time the board had looked at it, to the end of November 30th, 2020. Now, this will not fully line up with first interim because we also continue to make adjustments to the budget into December. But the bulk of that is really related to changes in the budget that we had to make as a result of first interim. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll move on. The next one we do is a monthly enrollment report. And basically what we're doing is kind of comparing our enrollment from one month to the next. And it's broke down by early grade levels, ETK through 5th grade. And then the middle section is 6th through 8th, excuse me. And then we have our upper grades at 9th through 12th. So basically by school, by grade level, you can kind of see the changes on a month to month. The bottom, November 30th, our enrollment is 5,691 students. That's actually a 21 student decrease from the prior month. However, when you look at it at this same time last year, we also had a big drop from October to November, and we're up ahead about 21 students right now. So we do continue to have that positive enrollment. Can continue to monitor it. Hopefully the numbers hold, and we continue to, again, have that positive enrollment and not a decline.
Robert, I have a question. So I see that compared to last month, we lost 21 students. And if I remember correctly from the board meeting last month, we had lost students. Do you know this school year to date, how many students, are we above or below?
I don't have the comparison on where we were at the beginning of the year, but we always need to keep in mind there's a lot of adjustments at the beginning of the year until our enrollment kind of settles down. This year in particular was very challenging, being under a totally different way to count our students. So it was much more challenging this year. The thing is, right now, we just want to continue to monitor it. Our enrollment will fluctuate through the year. It tends to actually start steadily declining throughout the year. That's the normal trend on that.
Robert, just a note, often we have a number of seniors that graduate in December once they've completed their credits. So there's some students that do that. And then just, change in the community as a few people move out. And more people seem to move during the summer months than during the winter months. So
correct.
Those trends are,
those are very good points, Trustee Brown. I did reach out to Rancho reached out to me actually in after one of our board meetings, and basically said they should not be having the as large an amount of that mid-year grads that we've had in the past. We also had where we had students that were just needed a few credits, and once they got those credits, they were able to get enough credits to graduate, and then they basically disenrolled. That's not happening this year either. So hopefully it's going to remain stable, but we're under a different environment now, and we'll just have to continue to see where we end up.
So, well, are we not, I know Matt Marshall, we had asked him multiple times last year, and I know we're in a different scenario, but we had asked for data. For example, if I were to look at this, I would want to know in 6th grade, we lost 6 students. In 7th, we lost 8. In 8th, we lost 3. I would like to know, still would like to know, where are they going? We asked him that last year. Are they just can't do distance learning? Did they move? Did they leave the district and go somewhere else? I think I'm still back into that place where I'd really like to see, when we have a number of 21 students down, I'd like to know just where they went, what happened.
I agree with Chris. So do we do like an exit interview, for lack of a better word, with parents and say, Because if people are moving, there's really not much we can do about that as a board. But if they're leaving because they're going to a different school district, that would be really beneficial information for us to know, because that's something that we could solve, you know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things are generally when a student leaves, there is a little bit of information that's put in. I know, at least in the past, there was some sort of exit interviews. So it just takes a little bit of digging on that. And there are some cases where we just don't know, that we just know that they're not enrolled anymore. So it's, yeah, so we'll see what we
Well, I
can
know
find
when
out a
Louis
little bit more
Gansler,
details.
I know when Louis Gansler presented at one of our meetings last year from Rancho Cotati, he mentioned that he knows exactly because he does those interviews himself. He talks to those parents. I mean, if they're moving to, you know, Idaho, wherever, if they're leaving the district, don't they have to request their records be transferred? There's got to be some point of a person somewhere that says, we're requesting, you know, records for Susie to be transferred to a school in Idaho or Santa Rosa or something. I would think it couldn't be that hard for us. So I'm just going to ask later on that we take a look at that and see if we can't get something, you know, real simple to us that says, hey, of these 21 kids, 5 moved to Idaho, 2 moved to Texas, 2 went to Santa Rosa, just something really basic.
We are happy to do that research. I do have some information that we had about 20 students graduate from El Camino, but we will continue to provide you with that detailed information and gather that for you. We can absolutely do that.
That would be great. I'm looking at El Camino, and El Camino does not show a loss of students, does it?
1 student.
Yeah, so if there's 20, where are they? Does that mean we're at 41?
It could be that they're still there, and then if they're graduating, that number could go down next month.
Next month, okay.
I also will be speaking with the principals because they meet with the families that are leaving the district when they complete that paperwork. So what we'll do is gather it on a document so that you know what percentage are they leaving the district, are they moving out of the area? So we'll be able to provide that to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure thing.
If they live in this district and they want to go somewhere else, we have to approve their intra-district transfer, right? So we should know if they're going to a different district.
Absolutely.
Could we get that number of how many, I don't need it right now, but how many families live in Roanoke Park or in Cotati and are going to a different school district, just so we kind of know?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Also,
Robert, is
wouldn't
there
that-
anything? Sorry.
Wouldn't that number be hard if, say, a family lived out of district and they just kept their kid in the district and they moved into the district? We wouldn't really know that, would we?
Yeah, I think from my understanding, if a student from day one, if they decide they live in our boundaries and they decide to go to another district, so we would know some of that information. They just continue to, they have to check in once in a while, but we're going to pull as much information that we can and try to help answer some of these questions for you.
And let us remember that when students graduate, that's kind of a ongoing process. So we may be accepting new kids and then students are graduating. So, but we will look into it and provide that information. And also we have to consider that there might be a program that certain specific families are looking for too. So we will look into that and provide you with some background information.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Robert, is there anything else on 8D, safety, parcel, facilities, development, anything else?
No, that was just the 2 items was what we were going to bring forth here. Thank you.
Okay, and that was just discussion. Okay. 8E, first reading and waive second reading, approval of revisions to board policy and administrative regulation. 6020, parent involvement.
Yes, we are requesting the waiving of the second reading once again because we have a federal program monitoring that will take place in January, and we're required to upload these to the CBE. This policy in particular is really defining how the district will involve parents and guardians and families in the development of meeting opportunities to be involved in their children's education. So how will we include them in the decision-making process at the schools? Part of a requirement is for Title I schools to have a Title I parent meeting where they bring the parents in and present information about the programs that we're offering to students. So that's that policy at the district level, and then each school site is also required, Title I schools required to have a parent involvement policy. So that is the policy before you tonight. We'd appreciate if you would waive that second reading so we can upload it for our FPM process.
Okay, any questions? If not, can I have a motion for item 8E to approve first reading and waive second reading approval of revisions to board policy and administrative regulation 6020 parent involvement?
I make a motion that we pass 8E.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Okay, item 8F, second reading approval of revisions to board bylaw 9322, agenda meeting materials.
Yes, this is the second reading, and and now we're requesting a vote. And this was reviewed at the last meeting. Really, it talks about this is recommended from the CSBA in terms of bylaws and agenda and meeting materials presented. Sorry about that.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, can I get a motion for item 8F, second reading approval of revisions to board bylaw 9322, agenda meeting materials?
I'll make a motion that we pass 8F.
Thank you, Joe. Can I get a second?
Second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Okay. Item 8G, call for nominations to the CSBA Delegate Assembly.
Yes, as you know, we're part of Region 3, which is comprised of Marin, Napa, Solana, and Sonoma County, and we're entitled to have 8 delegates to the CSBA Delegate Assembly. So at this point, we'd like to ask and see if there's anyone interested or wanting to nominate a CSBA Delegate Assembly, which are being accepted till Thursday, January 7th.
Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody want to nominate someone?
I believe from the list, there already are 2 people filling those positions.
I think this is an extra. How does that work, Left? Do you know?
I don't have the list in front of me. So are there vacancies, or if you want to nominate, then they go up and they vote for these, correct?
Correct.
So
I think so.
yeah, so if anybody wants to get involved and have an extra duty, and I mean, it's rewarding. It's extra work. But if you, as a delegate, you're involved in various things like planning the conference a year in advance, and being on various committees that help do various things that further education for the entire state and all the school districts. So
may I weigh in, Trustee Brown?
you sure may.
So Jeremy Brock his term expires as a delegate assembly in 2022, and Lori Fong, her term is going to be expiring in 2021. So if anybody wanted to nominate somebody, they would be up against Lori Fong, who I hear is going to be putting her name as a delegate assembly too. So this would be for taking Lori Fong's position, if that helps.
And then, and in the past, just general information, Ed Gilardi was very active in this. He was a delegate. Karen Pulley was a delegate for a while. And I don't know other names. Those two jump into my memory who have been on our board and been delegates. So anyway, just FYI. Thanks.
So it doesn't look like we have any nominations. So do we still have to vote for no nominations?
No, it just goes bye-bye.
Because it's an action item.
Without a nomination, there's no vote.
Okay, so we just skip it and go to the next?
Yes.
Should we bring it up next year when there's going to be an actual position opening?
Yes.
I think that this is on every year, isn't it?
Mindy?
Yes, it is every year. We get this every year about this time, if there's a seat opening up in Region 3.
And usually when that seat is opening up and someone's nominated, there's a like a resume and kind of a letter stating as to why that individual wants to be a delegate, correct?
Well, and if Lori Fong's position is expiring in 2021 and we brought it up in December, it would be too late for anybody to run for that seat in November, correct?
Well, I'm sorry, I lost my hearing. What's going to happen is coming in March, we're going to receive the ballot. The board will receive the ballot to vote on whoever has put their name in, like Lev said, to apply for this position. So we will be voting for this region person in probably in around March this happens. So this will come back to the board.
Okay. Okay, on to, any more questions?
And just for purpose of that, within our region, all the school boards in the region vote for those individuals, correct?
You have this board here has one vote. Yes. Say there was two candidates, then you would have one vote.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, 8H, Resolution 2021-9, certifying the results of the November 3rd, 2020 general election.
This is a certification of the results of our election that we're seeking approval for tonight from the board.
I'm smiling.
Can I have a motion?
I assume there's no lawsuits. I'm being facetious. I would like to move that we approve Resolution 2021-9, certifying the results of the November 3rd, 2020 election.
I'll second.
Great, roll call, please.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Yeah, Michelle, just helping you out with your lawsuit. It looks bad if, voted yes on this.
If I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
Item 8I, acceptance of gifts and donations to schools and districts. We have a donation from Moon Valley Studio, Raymond Baltar, a rebate from the school photographer to Richard Crane in the amount of $365. Can I get a motion to approve 8I, acceptance of gifts and donations?
I'll motion to approve 8I.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes.
Trustee Wing.
Yes.
Okay, item 9, do we have any public comments?
Not.
Okay, 9A, board member reports and future agenda items. I'll just go around the windows. Michelle Wing, do you have anything you'd like to discuss?
I do. So first, I just want to say hi to everyone, and I'm really excited and looking forward to working with you all. And I want to take a moment to thank both Tim and Jennifer for their service and for leaving the board in such good hands, and both serving for 4 years. And I also want to thank Myra and Mindy, because they've been working their butts off getting Mark and I up to speed and making sure we know what's going on, and making sure we don't look too crazy at our first meeting. So thank you to both of you. I was really fortunate and able to go to the California School Board Association conference 2 weeks ago. I went to the first day, which is an orientation for new trustees, where they go over everything from how school districts work, how the budgets work, and how a board works together. And one of the things they really stressed is that I am no longer a me, we are a we. And so that is how I would like to present myself as a school board trustee, as I am part of a big group. It's not just about me and what I want to do. So they really stressed that a lot. And then I was able on Thursday and Friday to go to a budget training workshop, which was really informative because it also went over the interim report. So when I got it on Friday, I knew at least what I was looking at. And then I went to a virtual school board meeting where they just talked about how to run your school board in a virtual world. And probably the most informative one was a COVID frequently asked questions for school board members, where they talked about negotiating MOUs. They talked about going back hybrid versus in person. They talked about distance learning, everything that has to do that school boards are facing right now. And it was really great to hear from, 50 plus different school board members, what they're going on and what they're doing, and that we're not alone in this. There's a lot of other school boards that are doing the exact same thing we're doing. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's some that are a lot farther ahead than us, and there's some that are behind us. But it was really great. So I'm really excited to get moving on all this. And that's all my stuff.
Thank you. Trustee Nelson?
Very well said. I guess you beat me to the punch on a lot of things, especially with the thank yous to Mindy and to Dr. Perez. I think it was very telling and interesting that for the new trustee seminar that I attended, that we had technical difficulties with Zoom. So no one is immune to remote learning. So I don't think anybody had it when they went to school classes on how to teach or administer remotely. So yeah, a lot to learn. And thank you for the service, 4 years of service to Tim and to Jennifer, and I hope that you'll be patient with me and mine.
Thank you. Trustee Chimino?
Welcome, guys, to the team. And I just wanted to bring up a couple things. One is, I think I brought this up a while ago, and it's been hectic, but we haven't been doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and it'd be nice to have that pre-recorded. I know it'd be probably really hard to do it live, but if we had a pre-recorded Pledge of Allegiance, and it'd be kind of cool to, if the schools wanted to put together something. I've seen a couple things, like mainly from the elementary schools, where they kind of do a couple minute thing where they put together some videos of kids either singing songs or talking about something. I think it'd be a really good way to start the meeting to kind of like show us what we're here for. It's very impersonable, and not impersonal, but it's not very warm talking to a screen in the back of my house, and it'd be nice to see some kids other than my own for a little bit, just to what we're doing this for, so I'd like to see something like that, if that can happen. And then I've been, trying to talk to a bunch of people, mainly, people in my family, or just any kids that I go and see. And I was wondering what it would be like to do, continue distance learning in the secondary, because a lot of the older kids that I've talked to have been, it's been really positive for them, and it seemed to work out a lot better than them, and according to them, their grades are better. So obviously there's like a social aspect to high school, but it seems like every single kid I talked to in high school, they miss their friends and stuff, but they really like the pace and how they're learning distance learning. So I think that would be something to really look into, especially if we're talking about retaining students or getting other students who are more into that. And I know they do have schools that are full-time distance learning that have been doing it before the pandemic, because I know some people who that I worked with when I down south, or like in the South Bay, that their kids go to full-on distance learning schools that have, over 300 kids in the school that have been going on before COVID. And then I was curious, I don't know if we can find it, but I've heard a couple stories, and it's like, if I'm hearing a couple, it's probably a lot more. But how many families have moved but still are doing distance learning? Like, what is that worth looking into? I don't think it's probably that. It'd probably be really hard to have like all the grades, but I was like, I talked to a couple people and it's like, yeah, the family, they're living in LA and they're still doing the distance learning. And I'm like, man, I've heard that story a couple times already. So I wonder if there's a way to find out. I'm sure the teachers know because the kids probably talked about it. So that'd be interesting. Just another way, like revenue, they're trying to like change the model. I know a lot of big companies are moving out of the city. They're doing more remote, distance learning. And then maybe if families are already adapting, we're going on 2 years on this. And if their jobs are changing to where they're at home and they're figuring it out, it might work out for families. And if we can offer that type of service to some families and, help us out with our revenues, that would be a good way to go, I think, or look into it. And I hope everyone's doing okay and not having any breakdowns and stuff and figuring out how to vent, because that was like the biggest thing for our family, was figuring out we didn't have any outlets. So hope everyone's figuring that out by now.
Thanks, Joe. Trustee Brown?
I need to unmute before I talk. So I also attended the CSBA conference, and here's the PowerPoint from COVID-19 frequently asked questions for governing board members that Michelle talked about. That was probably one of the best sessions that I've ever attended. It was really enlightening to listen to 4 attorneys talk about some of the key elements that districts are facing. So I got a lot out of that. They talked about, obviously the MOUs, the labor negotiations. They talked about special ed. They talked about the logistics of doing these meetings and, what to do, what not to do, and from success stories, whatever thing. And one other interesting thing at the end, one of the attorneys talked about Brown Act violations. And before, if someone posted something on Facebook and one board member commented on it, it was a Brown Act violation. Now, according to this attorney, if somebody posts, one board member just posts something, school board related business that a decision is being voted on, that's a Brown Act violation. So I encourage everyone to be very careful with their Facebook usage, especially that has anything to do with the school board business type of thing. So, I guess we can comment all day on our school board, the Cotati Roner Park School Board thing. So, but that was a great thing. So welcome, Mark and Michelle. I look forward to you guys helping us out. We've got some challenges here, but I think we've got the staff, and I think we're going to do it. And thank you for joining us, and thank you for the staff for continuing to get us through this challenging times. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I would like to say congratulations to Russell Hatcher for finally being able to retire from the IT department. He was there 14, 15 years. He was also the head of CSBA for most of those years and really worked hard for his members. So, and I'm also glad I gained a really good friend. Also did the CSBA President's Workshop, which was really informative. Got a lot of workbooks. We did a lot of fun little exercises. The presenters were great, and I got a lot out of it. And that's really all I have. So we will go on to 9B, Superintendent's Report.
Yes. As always, we're always busy in the district doing hard work and enjoying our schools. Anyway, this last couple of weeks, I've been visiting sites. So I was able to visit HON, UELF, Richard Crane, and TPA. We talked about student progress. We talked about professional learning communities and how teachers are reflecting on their practice and looking at how students are doing academically. And also at UELF, I was able to visit classrooms. I visited every classroom virtually. And I have to tell you, it made my day. I was able to listen into morning message, and I was able to work with some young authors and give them feedback on their writing. So it was a really wonderful day. And it's always wonderful when you can fit in a site visit and be with the community. Last week, Principal Hankerson had a parent meeting with her community to talk about what the updates are with hybrid learning and look at what sample schedules. And I was able to join in, and it was a wonderful meeting, really positive. I was able to help out with some answering some questions. We also met with RIPSIA to negotiate our MOU. That was at the end of last week. And this week I was able to get to know Mr. Nelson and Ms. Wing a little bit better as we went over the agenda and discussed the various projects we have. And I'm really excited to report that last night we had a meeting with our Spanish parents. One of the things that's very important to me is that our Spanish community is not attending all the meetings or the parent meetings. And I think it's more about comfort than anything. So we had a meeting last night and we had 33 participants present. And it was people were comfortable because we only spoke in Spanish. And they asked really good questions about how are you going to keep the students safe if you reopen? What options are there for families that are not ready to return to school? So we had some really good dialogue. Some children are fearful about returning. How do we handle that? So we really talked about how we're going to prepare kids for their new reality. So it was a very good meeting. I think I presented for about 35 minutes, and then the next 20 to 25 minutes were really thoughtful questions from our parent community. So I'm very excited to see them engaging and feeling comfortable and returning. We're going to meet with them once a month. Also a little side project that we're working on is we really need to think about how we promote our schools differently. So we're in this virtual world, and usually we do showcases and we do tours. So how are we going to do that and make sure we keep everybody safe? So the elementary principals said, we've got to do something different. So we're putting together a video, and Mr. Kirby is assisting me. So we're going to be compiling a video that showcases all of our elementary schools and our various unique programs. So I think it's a new way of promoting and advertising our schools. And we're looking forward to putting that video together. And maybe when we're ready to go, no pressure, Mr. Kirby, maybe we can bring it to the board so you can see what we're putting together. I've been selected as the narrator of the video. I think I missed a meeting, so I got voluntold that I'm going to be the narrator. So I'm looking forward to that and working to see what we can put together. But I know it'll be something wonderful and marvelous because Mr. Kirby is supporting this work and he's very talented. So we're very fortunate to have him. So that's my report for now.
Super.
Thank you. That note, item 10 is convened to closed session. And are there any public comments before we go into closed session?
There is one.
Okay. And who's reading that one?
Oh, it's right here.
Melissa L. Trustees, based on a recent news items from the Press Democrat, it would appear that our teachers have absolutely no clue as to the current state of the world. As local businesses shutter and members of our community are losing their jobs, over 80% of our teachers want a raise. I have done some research and noted on the median salary in Sonoma County is approximately $35,000 a year. That is for a full year of employment, not 180 days. Additionally, the typical worker in Sonoma County does not have the health care benefits or retirement benefits that our teachers enjoy. While I believe teachers are underpaid, there are ways to increase your salary through education and within the step and column structure. While I firmly believe that the past board was incompetent and unprepared as evidenced by the negotiations of the last two superintendents, now is not the time to threaten to strike. In fact, now is not the time to ask for an increase in your base pay. Give this board a chance to fix the financial problems created by the last board.
Okay, item 10, we need to convene to closed session.
Do you need to read out what we're going to closed session about?
This is the closed session readout I was given.
Okay.
The items.
Is that the one?
President Gillis, I think you read the items that are listed under closed session.
Okay, thank you. So 10A, conference with labor negotiator Myra Perez and Robert Marical, organization RIPSIA. 10B, public employee appointment, assistant superintendent.
Right.
Thank you. So Mike, will you let us know when we're in closed session?
And you're going into closed session right now. You will have to accept the breakout room.
Mike, I didn't get an invite. It's Robert.
Oh, sorry about that, Robert. Let me get you in there.
Thanks, Kirby.
We'll see everybody in a bit.
Will you text me when they go back in?
Yes, this is still streaming too.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I guess the good thing is they're both done.
And we see Robert. Oh, there's Cindy. Everyone's back?
Yep.
Okay, item 11A, report of action taken in closed session.
Excuse me.
Although the board,
Excuse
Yeah?
me, please reconvene the meeting to open session.
oh, sorry, I
That's
thought I
okay.
read that. 11, we're going to reconvene to open session. 11A, report of action taken in closed session. Although the board discussed and took preliminary action in closed session to approve employment agreement for Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, Government Code 54957.6 requires final action be taken in open session. So we will move to 12A. Is there any public comment on 12A? Hearing none, can I get a first for 12A, approval of the employment agreement for Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction?
I move that we approve the approval of the employment agreement with the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nelson,
Yes, bienvenida.
Trustee Wing,
Yes.
Great. Thank you. And that brings us to an end, correct?
Myra was our
We
candidate.
Myra?
yes, our candidate is here. We have to read the, do you have the statement to be, about the agreement that we're entering in with, Dr.
the
Pettis?
terms of the agreement.
Terms of the agreement?
I do not.
Okay,
Do you want me to send it to you?
or,
Can Myra read it, or does the president have to read it?
Anybody could read it.
okay, I'm happy to read it.
Okay.
Thank you, Myra.
Thank you. This item is board consideration of the recommended approval of the employment agreement between Dr. Luz Elena Perez to serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction and the Board of Education. Government Code Section 54953 requires the board, prior to taking final action, to provide an oral summary of the salary and fringe benefits for the district executive during an open meeting in which the final action is to be taken. Accordingly, the following is an oral summary of the financial terms of the employment agreement. The term of the agreement is January 19th, 2021 through June 30th, 2023, unless terminated earlier as provided in the agreement. The Assistant Superintendent's base salary shall be $152,629, payable in equal monthly installments. The Assistant Superintendent shall receive a master's stipend of $1,416, as well as a doctoral degree stipend for $2,835. The Assistant Superintendent will be entitled to the same health and welfare benefits that are offered to other certificated management employees. The Assistant Superintendent shall receive a $200 monthly stipend for business use of her personal cell phone. Actual and necessary costs for business-related expenses incurred due to travel outside the district boundaries will be reimbursed upon submission of the appropriate receipts as ordinarily required of any employee seeking reimbursement. The Assistant Superintendent shall have a work year of 220 days. She will accrue 20 vacation days annually. The district agrees to pay the Assistant Superintendent membership to the Association of California's School Administrations, ACSA.
Thank you, Myra. And welcome, Los Elena. It's really good to have you coming on board.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you, Board President Giles, Trustee Timino, Trustee Brown, Trustee Wing, Trustee Nelson, and Superintendent Dr. Perez. I'm so honored to have been selected to serve in the Cotati-Ronner Park School District as your Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. I just want to say the search committee was amazing. They were so welcoming and allowing me the opportunity to share my qualifications, and it just strengthened my desire to join your district. I know I'm joining a community of extremely caring and dedicated school staff members and elected leaders. I can't wait to get started in serving our students and community, and I look forward to meeting everyone, be it through Zoom, Google Meets, and hopefully one day soon in person. I want to say real briefly as well that I am the fortunate recipient of the love and support of my husband, Dr. Dennis Perez, my daughters, Monique and Clarice, and my parents, Nelson and Dora Rodriguez. And I want to thank them and all the mentors that have guided my career so that I may now support all the students and staff of Cotati-Ronner Park. And I'm just so excited to join the district. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Welcome. Welcome. Yay.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. 13 is adjournment. Actually, are we done, Mindy? I'm sorry, did I miss anything?
You did excellent. You did excellent,
Okay.
Board President Gillies.
I thought I missed something. Thank you. Bye, guys. See you next time.
Good night.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good Christmas.
Bye.